This is going to be such a detailed video for you guys. We're going to be talking about exactly how to apply foundation and concealer. But this is a kind of slightly new way because you've always seen me use my sponge, and I am going to be using it today, but I do want to show you how easy it is with a brush as well. And yeah, let's get started. So I don't have anything on my face. I'm going to prep it because that is really important when you're applying your base, such as your foundation and concealer. So first thing I want to do is get some eye cream on. I'm using my MAC Hyper Real Serumizer eye treatment. That's a recent product that I'm loving, and it's just a really good texture for the eyes under makeup. I just feel like it's hard to find eye creams that are not kind of like disturbing the concealer, and sometimes certain eye creams can actually make your concealer crease a little bit more or just quicker, and this is one of those that doesn't actually do that, and it's more of a balmy feel to it. So it's not like oily, it's not greasy, and it kind of absorbs straight into your skin, but it leaves enough of that hydration there that your skin needs for base application, but not too much. So next up, I'm gonna use my Charlotte Tilbury Glow toner. Currently loving this at the moment. I go through phases. It's not like I don't like it and then I stop. This is just a really good way to add that extra glow. So obviously I'm not going to go around my eye area. That's where I've applied my eye cream, but I'm gonna go over the rest of the face, and I just gently go over. I'm not like rubbing it on. Let that kind of settle down. You don't have to use a cotton pad for that, by the way. You can just, you know, do it with your fingers if you want. And you want to let that dry down. You don't want to go straight in with your moisturizer because it's just going to all mix together, and then there was no point actually applying them separately at all. It just becomes one new product. So what we want to do now is apply the moisturizer. Now I think this should be dried down. Yeah, I can feel that it's like my skin has absorbed it, and now we're good to go with the moisturizer. So I've got my It Cosmetics Confidence in a Cream. This is literally the perfect everyday cream. I just feel like it's a really good cream that doesn't, it's not overcomplicated. I think that's the best way for me to describe it. So I'm just going to press this into the skin. Now we're focusing just on the foundation and concealer. So I really want to keep this targeted to that rather than kind of messing around with anything else. At this point, what you want to do is let your moisturizer settle down. Now, I know that you're probably going to watch this video and think, okay, this is a bit longer than what I actually have, like in terms of time, but I'm slowing it down for you guys. You're obviously not going to be talking when you're doing it, and every time you do it, you're going to get quicker and quicker. So just remember that, because I feel like a lot of people forget that actually, even though this video might be like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, it doesn't mean it's going to take you that long. So always remember, it's going to take you a fraction of the time of what you're watching. Next up, like I said, you want to let your moisturizer sink into the skin. This is so important because if you go straight in with your foundation, concealer, whatever you're going to apply next, it is going to mix in with this. And then what happens is the moisture from this is going to change the texture of your foundation or your concealer. So you might be using the foundation texture that you love or the concealer texture that you love, but the minute that they mix together, you're adding more fluidity to it and kind of like more moisture to it, which means it isn't necessarily going to be maybe as matte as you usually like it, or you know, it might give you that extra glow that you don't really want, or it could affect the coverage as well. And that's because if you have a lot of kind of moisture on your skin, then it could dilute the type of coverage that you're getting. So just remember that there's a reason why people say let each step kind of like settle down into your skin. So next up, what we're going to do is move on to the foundation, because I feel like I've been talking and this has kind of settled down. I am going to use my Patrick Tar Major Skin Hydra Luxe Luminous Skin Perfecting Foundation. Would never in a million years remember that name. Why? Can I just say, why is this a thing? Why do they call one product such a long name? I don't know. It's got to be like for SEO and stuff, right? Like, so when you put it in and like all of those words, they're just like keywords. It's got to be that. Otherwise I just don't get it. Like it's just way too long. I thought Charlotte Tilbury was bad when it comes to like long names, but this is just also on par with her. Okay, like I mentioned, you want to go in with your foundation next, but if you want to apply a primer, you can. But you don't have to. A primer, I'm not going to say is essential, right? So even though there are a couple of bits I may do that you don't need to do, or I may not do that you would want to do, I'm still going to talk through it. So I will be putting a primer on actually just to show you, but it doesn't mean that you follow this to the point where it's like, actually I would like to put an SPF there or an extra SPF layer or something. You can. It's just about understanding how between each layer you've got to leave a little bit of time. You've got to think about the texture that's left, like the fluid, like is the finish on your skin too fluid for the next layer, if that makes sense. So you want to kind of keep an eye on what your finishes on your skin before you apply the next layer. Is it going to disturb the next layer, right? And I know this may seem like maybe it's overcomplicating it to you. If you want the best finish, these are the things you're going to have to think about, and you'll get to the point very quickly where you don't think about it because you just know, right? But also, as you know, this video is a detailed step-by-step on how to apply foundation and concealer. So you're really kind of getting everything here. Nothing is being missed out. So, okay, like I said, I'll apply a primer. Let's use my MERCIER Pure Canvas Blurring Primer. And this is a really good primer to just blur the skin, basically. It does help to kind of like minimize the appearance of your pores. Now you don't have to apply this all over your skin. You can just apply this wherever you want. So I have actually heard a few, or read a few comments of people asking things like, you know, do you use one primer all over your face? Can you use multiple primers? Is it necessary, basically? And where do you kind of slot in the SPF? Let me explain that quickly. Number one, don't have to use a primer. If you feel that you don't like that extra layer and you really just don't actually need it to be problem solving anything, then don't use the primer. You don't have to. If you want to kind of solve a problem such as your pores look a lot larger and you feel like you need something to kind of blur them, or maybe you need extra hydration because your skin is quite dry and dehydrated, then you can use a hydrating primer. You can use it, but if you've got combination skin and you have certain areas on your skin which are slightly different to other areas, such as an oily kind of area down the T-zone, and you have kind of like texture on this kind of these side bits, like maybe your pores look a lot larger than what you'd like them to use, then you can change your primer. So you can use different primers. So use a kind of mattifying, pore minimizing or blurring primer along the kind of oily area, and then on the area where you want to minimize the pores, you can use, again, you could use a blurring primer or you could use a pore minimizing primer. So you can really kind of change it up. You want to target the areas that are kind of a bit of a nuisance. What is going on? Nuisance to you. You want to target those kind of areas and try and correct the problem before you move on to your foundation and everything. So what you're kind of doing is perfecting your skin before you get to the foundation and concealer. And what that means is you're kind of prepping your skin in just the right way that you're not going to need to work as hard with your concealer and your foundation, right? Which ultimately means you're not going to have to like cake it on and pile it on. That's the aim here. Also, if you want to use an SPF and there isn't any SPF in your foundation, I'm not actually sure if there is any in here. I would assume they would have put it on the front if there was, and it isn't, so I don't think there's SPF in this foundation. But if you want to add an SPF, you can, and I would suggest using a moisturizer which has an SPF in there, or a primer which has SPF in there, or a foundation that has SPF in there. There are so many options there. So if you have a foundation that doesn't have SPF, use a moisturizer that has an SPF, because somewhere along the line you can get a multi-use product, right? I would not suggest just getting a SPF product on its own if you wear makeup on a daily basis and you really want to protect your skin, but at the same time you don't really want to be adding an extra layer. Get multi-use products because they're honestly going to help you with this. You're going to avoid having to get that cakey finish, and it's just going to be better for you in the long run, honestly. So, okay, hopefully that's explained it. Now, as I mentioned, we have primer on now, right? So let's go in with our foundation. Now, this foundation is quite a fluid foundation. Foundations come in very different kind of textures. I'm going to be assuming for this video that you're going to be using a liquid foundation, but again, even with liquid, there are different kind of, I would say, textures of it. not textures, but in the sense that you get some which are pretty runny, you get some which are quite thick. It all depends on the coverage of the foundation. Now this is I would say medium coverage foundation. It is quite fluid. There are other foundations that I have that are also medium, and maybe they're not as kind of fluid, they're a little bit thicker, but I quite like this because I want a kind of luminous finish to my skin. Now what I've done here is I've been pretty clever because I want my pores to look minimized. I want my texture to be kind of like blurred. I don't want to add extra hydration in my primer or moisturizer. Like I don't want that extra hydration from my primer or moisturizer because I know I'm gonna get it from this. So I'm quite happy with the hydration. But what I have done is try to kind of tweak those little problem areas that I have before I move on to this foundation. And when you're using something like a luminous foundation or you want a luminous glowy finish, the problem with that is it's always gonna kind of enhance any texture, right? So what I'm trying to do is eradicate all those issues now so that I can make the most and just enjoy my luminous skin foundation. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is get this foundation on the back of the hand. Now what I wanna do first is really kind of get the most out of this foundation before heading into my concealer, because what I want is to be able to kind of get the coverage that I need with the foundation without having to rely too much on my concealer. I've got my BK Beauty 106 brush. This is a great brush for buffing foundation in. So all I'm gonna do is buff this into the foundation. So I'm kind of like grabbing a bit of foundation, moving it to the side, and then really kind of buffing it into the brush. Can you see how long I've done that for? Because I really don't want to be able to go onto the skin and get this like, I don't want to see the foundation immediately, right? I don't want it to look like I've just kind of like picked it up and gone like that over my skin. I want to be able to get a really nice airbrushed finish. So what we're going to do is we're going to start going like this. So we're really kind of just dabbing onto the skin. We're pushing it into the skin. You don't want to go too hard, but you also don't want to go too soft. You do want to kind of like really get into the skin. And I'm kind of spreading this over. As I'm moving around my skin, I'm not going side to side. I'm actually dabbing and moving the dab to the next area, so it's never dragging. Okay, we're gonna do this side so we can really kind of take a look at how this looks. Let's get a little bit more into this brush. Again, really buff it into the brush first. Let's go onto the forehead here. Do you know what song I cannot get out of my head? Is the anxiety song. It is just literally in my head, rent-free, no joke. It is just constantly on loop in my brain. I don't know why. I've heard it. I think there's so many reels and TikToks and stuff that I can see using the same sound, and now it's just not gone. Now it's just constantly there. It's really annoying me because I don't mind the song, but it's making me kind of get annoyed with the song because I'm just listening to it in my head all the time. Anyway, yeah, just thought I'd just give you that useless piece of information, but at least you know what's going on in my head while I'm actually doing this. So, okay, as you can see, we have never grabbed it. We've never dragged it, right? And there you go. Now, can you see how much of an amazing finish we've got from this? And we haven't even got to the concealer yet. Now, I just want to add that I know that you've probably seen other videos of me doing underpainting where I apply my concealer first and then I apply my foundation over it. I love that technique. I still do it, but I do like to repeat this in several videos because obviously I know not all of you watch every single video. I just want to make sure you don't miss it because I don't want anyone saying, oh yeah, but you usually do this. This channel is for me to educate you on makeup. And if I were to just use the same technique every time, I'm not really reaching a broad audience. I'm just sticking to the one same thing and that's it. You're not getting anything new. So I really want to make sure that I'm covering everything for every type of person, for anyone. So no matter what you like, I fully understand that not everyone is gonna like underpainting. And that's why I really want to still appeal to you guys and appeal to the people who don't necessarily like underpainting or don't want that kind of finish and they want something which is, you know, they're just used to applying the foundation first. They're used to doing it that way, and that's fine. I do it that way as well sometimes. I wouldn't say I do one more than the other. It really depends on the look I'm going for. So Just an FYI, I use various different techniques. Anyway, moving on. Can you see the finish that this has given us here, right? As I said, we haven't even got to the concealer yet. This is a really nice color for me because I feel like it is a little tiny bit deeper than my skin tone, but I like it because my faces look, as you can see, a little bit whiter than the rest of my body. This just brings everything together, and now my face looks like it's not detached from my body. As you can see, nice and luminous, nice and flawless, amazing coverage, doesn't look cakey, and we haven't even applied a lot because I've still got so much on my hand. So again, we're gonna go over to the other side. We're going to really get this into the brush. How crazy is it though, and I really want you to get this, is that people think that you should, you know, get the foundation, go like that. That's what you need to do. And okay, I saw a video. Can I just say this? I saw a video recently of someone, I don't know who they were. I have no idea, and I'm sure there's numerous people who say this. She's doing one of those videos, you know, it's probably on TikTok, you know, where like they talk really loud and really fast and into the camera, and it's really supposed to be, you know, it's a technique to get you, like, drag you in. And she was just like, you don't need to buff foundation into a brush or into your sponge. You don't need to prime your tool with the foundation. You can just put it on because it's all going to end up the same. She's not a pro makeup artist, right? Because I had a look. She was just a beauty enthusiast or someone, you know, a creator. You know, I personally don't feel like you're a makeup artist, like a full-on proper makeup artist, unless you have experience working on different faces, right? That to me is a real makeup artist, someone who works on numerous different faces, who has several years experience and understands the art of it. It's not just about all the trends that you see on TikTok, right? If you are a professional makeup artist and you know your stuff, you know that blending is key. I really hope this doesn't exist and makeup artists or the new type of makeup artist does this. If I have a client sitting in front of me, I would not get this and go like that on her skin and then blend it. I don't even know what to say to that, honestly, if I saw that. I just did an article, which brings me to this, right? On my online magazine, The Beauty Breakfast Club, I'm gonna put the link in my description. I want you to go and read that article. It is about original makeup artists. It's how makeup artists have been, like Pat McGrath, Sam Fine, Kevin O'Quarr. Like, these are the OG makeup artists who understand it isn't about the new stuff that you see on TikTok. That is just a way to get clicks, likes, views. There's no art to it. None of these original makeup artists that you see use a fork to contour their nose. It's just ridiculous. So anyway, as I was saying, as I'm buffing this into my brush, and then we're going to go on to this other side, as I was saying, you do not apply it directly to the skin. And this person was like saying that, oh, it's all going to end up the same way. And the way she was saying it was like, you know, like every professional makeup artist out there is just stupid. And it was like, why do you think so many professional makeup artists who have channels like this talk about blending so much? Why? They're all just dumb. They all just, where did they come from? So you're right, but all of them, they're all wrong. It was just really annoying because I was like, oh my God, you don't actually understand. Like, you don't understand that blending is key. And applying it in this way does make a difference to the way that your skin looks. Honestly, I was watching it and I had to turn it off. I was just like, what? I can't. I just can't. It was just, honestly, I hope you get what I'm trying to say. But anyway, we've got this all over, right? So it's really important, like I said, to buff it into the brush before you buff it into your skin. This is where you're going to get a seamless finish. If I were to just go there with the foundation and then start buffing it in or dragging it, you are still going to be left with more in that area. Your foundation coverage is not going to be even. It's not. This way, because I got an even finish on my brush before I even applied it to my skin, I'm getting an even finish on my skin. It's common sense, okay? So, moving on. Let's move on to the concealer now. And by the way, as I was saying, my Substack, which is an online platform called The Beauty Breakfast Club, go head over there. You're gonna love it because there are so many newsletters on there. I write one every other day and it's all written by me. It's all authentic in the sense that it's real. It's stuff that I really feel and think about, and it's all beauty related. And there are odd few kind of like culture, lifestyle stuff thrown in, but it's primarily beauty. All stuff about new products. You'll get all of that information there before you get it here, by the way. New products, reviews. Like there are two versions of subscription. One is free and it gives you access to most of the site, and then the other is paid, but it literally costs you just the equivalent of getting yourself a latte a month. That basically helps me to support all my different platforms. So it's a little bit that I ask for all of this that I give you. So if you feel that you get anything from this channel and you feel that you have learned anything, I would really appreciate your support by heading over and opting for the paid version. It's not even just the support that you're giving me. For that, you're going to get so much more too. You're going to get exclusive access to kind of things that we're planning on doing, like we're planning on doing giveaways. You get to read every single newsletter, and you'll be the first to know about new products and stuff as well. So I really do hope you head on over there, and you also get a chat room where we can chat, by the way. Yeah, it's really cool. And I've met so many of you who've opted for the paid version, and we chat on the group. We're building an amazing community. So please head on over. I would really appreciate it. Okay, so let's move on to the concealer now. So I'm going to be using my NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer. Yeah, that's it. I thought I got the wrong. I thought it was longer than that because I'm so used to like products having such ridiculously long names. I was like, oh, there's got to be more to this. And it's like, no, it's really basic. It's just a Radiant Creamy Concealer, which is great. So, okay. This is in the shade Ginger. I've said this several times. I just feel like, why does this shade suit every skin tone? It's really bizarre, or most skin tones. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna put this on the back of the hand. We're gonna just use our hand. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I see, I actually go like this and I put it on my eyelids a lot. I do that a lot, but then I'm also, I know I'm using it on that area, and it's very small in comparison to the whole face. You can drag this onto the skin if you want, right? Because you're not doing it all over, and you are, when you're blending, focusing on that one area. Let me just explain something quickly so you don't think I'm contradicting myself, right? So I said that you shouldn't go like that and then blend it in, because it's just, you're not gonna get an even finish, right? Foundation, the reason you shouldn't do that with foundation is because you've got a large surface area that you're working on, right? So applying it just to drop there and trying to get it everywhere is definitely gonna give you an uneven finish. Concealer, on the other hand, if I draw a stripe there, a little stripe there, or I put it on my eyelids with the wand, I know when I blend it, I'm only focusing on that area. I'm not trying to cover a larger surface area. That is why I would say that you can do it with this as opposed to being able to do it with this. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, what I am going to be doing is doing this on the back of my hand though this time, because I want to tell you exactly how pro makeup artists such as myself get that flawless, seamless finish on the skin. This is how. We do not get the product or the wand and apply it directly to a client. That is not what happens. And if you see that, it is wrong. The reason being, so many reasons. Hygiene. You've just gone like that and you've put it on someone's skin and then put it back in, and then you're going to use it on another client. It's so unhygienic. And then going in and out of the same thing. It's wrong. So what you can do is you can use it on your hand, because it's your hand, right? It's no one else's hand. Use it on your hand and then you can apply it. That is what we do when we're working on clients. Some of us work on our hands, some of us work on kind of palettes. We alternate. I alternate sometimes. And if I am using my hand, then I will always make sure that it is completely disinfected, and then I would apply it. Now that we've got this on the back of the hand, what I want to do is get my sponge. Now, there are a couple of different ways of applying the concealer. You could dampen your sponge, which mine is kind of damp anyway. It's like a little bit less than damp, so it's not wet, it's not damp, it's just a little bit less than damp. Use that on the concealer and then apply it. What you could also do is, let's just say, for example, you want your concealer to not look so cakey. Do you ever find that your concealer ends up looking like a little bit flaky, or dry, your skin looks dry, or it cracks a bit underneath? If you feel that that happens with your concealer, don't automatically assume that you've got to change your concealer. It could be that you add one little tiny step into your application process that will completely change the way that the concealer looks on your skin. It could be that you need to change your eye cream. It could be that you need to use a little bit more eye cream. It could be that you're not using, like you're using too much eye cream. So there are so many things that could be the reason that you're getting that type of result on your skin. I I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not going to give you like a magic pill here. It's trial and error. You've got to basically eliminate one of those problems it could be. If you've got 5 things that it could potentially be, you're going to have to spend at least like, you're going to have to put your makeup on 5 times, whether that's over the course of like a week, 2 weeks, whatever, but you're going to have to eliminate one thing at a time. Is it this? Let me take that out. Or let me adjust that a little bit. Is it that I put too much eye cream on? Let me put a little bit less eye cream on and let me try it that way. Try it that way. If it's still turning out the same way and you don't like it, clearly that wasn't the issue. Revert back to however you were applying your eye cream. It could be that your sponge is not hydrated enough. It could be so many different things like I mentioned. So let's work on what you could do, right? You can get a kind of hydrating spray and use that to dampen your sponge. Now I'm going to use this one here because I actually quite like this. This is a KOSAS Plump and Juicy Vegan Collagen Spray On Serum. Now what I'm going to do, and I've done this before and it works really well, so you want to just shake this a bit, and your sponge can be dry or it can be damp, it's fine. You want to shake this, you want to spray your sponge just a little bit, you don't need to do it a lot. You're going to get a tissue, wrap it around and squeeze it so it just soaks up all the excess. Now what we're going to do is buff into this concealer the same way we buffed the brush into the foundation. So we're really getting it in there, and it might end up looking like there's nothing on your hand now because it's all kind of soaked up and you're like, well, that's not going to go on my skin. Well, it is, because now what we're going to do is go onto the eyelid here, and you can go over both because I can guarantee it will be enough for both eyelids. And you're just gonna, in the same way that you applied the foundation, you are gonna dab. And the only way you move over to another area of the eyelid is by dabbing it over, dabbing and moving, not dragging at all. See how I've got that perfect even finish on the eyelids. At this point, you want to set your eyelids before you do anything else, because, and that's why I'm looking down, if you look up and you start doing all sorts of things in the middle, you really need to get straight to this point, right? It's basically going to crease. Now, use a powder puff. I'm going to keep looking down. Use a powder puff, and you want to basically make sure that it's a decent powder puff. My favorite is the MERCIER one. I squeeze it around one finger to like manipulate the shape. I go into my setting powder, which currently is the HUDA BEAUTY Easy Baking Banana Bread. I press it onto there, dip it once in the palm of your hand, like press it onto the palm of your hand or a tissue, and then press over here. Do the same thing and then press over your eyelids. Now you're going to get a brush. I like to use the Real Techniques brush, the setting one, because it's the perfect size. There's nothing on the brush, and all I'm doing is just dusting away the powder that's left. There you go. Eyelids are done, set. You don't have to worry about creasing now because we stayed looking down. If you see that you've got some creases there, you can just get your sponge, turn it around and just soak up all the product that's sitting in the crease. Now what we want to do is move on to the under eye area, right? Because that's normally the first, well, the area that most of us need concealer. I've got more concealer on the back of my hand. You can spray the sponge more if you want to. I'll do it a little bit. Wrap it in a tissue, that's it. Now really get this product into the sponge. And now we're going to do the under eye, and this is where we're just going to work along the under eye, and we're going to start here and we're going to work our way a little bit higher here just for a little lift. And you're going to see, you can make that face if you want because it stretches the area. It's completely up to you. And again, we're dabbing. We're not dragging, we are just dabbing. It's like bouncing over the skin. If you need more, go into the concealer. Make sure you dab it enough times onto the back of your hand to really get it into the sponge. And there you go. Can you see how we've got that really nice brightness there, right? If you want it anywhere else, you can. I personally think that you should be okay with just using the sponge without having to go into more concealer. Don't underestimate how much the sponge can transfer a decent amount of concealer, even with just this buffing. Like once you've gone into it, you've got enough on there to cover a decent amount. So don't forget that. Don't keep going into concealer. I think this is where your eyes trick you and you think you've got to see the concealer on it. You've got to see it in order to feel like it's going to do anything. You don't need to. So just bear that in mind. And there you go. You can see, look at this coverage. It's not even a lot. I can tell you that wasn't even a lot of concealer that I put on the back of my hand. I'm going to show you. because I'm going to do the other side. Hopefully you can see that is not a lot, trust me. And if you have ever used a NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer, you will know that when you actually take it out, not a lot comes out on the wand. It's not like Tarte Shape Tape where a whole load comes out. Like sometimes you got to go in and get some more because there's just not enough coming out. So that's just one go and I've put it on the back of my hand. So there isn't a lot that's come out there. So now what we're going to do is go into this, do the same thing. Really buff it in. Can you just see how like amazing that is, the coverage and the flawless finish that you get? Okay, let's go here now. Honestly, it's just once you figure out like exactly how to do this in this way, and you've got used to it, and you're kind of, you understand why. Because that's another thing. I feel like, okay, yes, you get loads of videos out, you know, showing you how to do things, but I do feel, and this is from like my years of teaching different people, everyone has a different pace at which they learn, which is the reason why I really go into detail in my videos, because I want it to be able to be understood and absorbed by anyone, no matter what your learning pace is. Some people might think, well, she's going on a bit too much about that. Maybe you're a bit faster, but not everyone is that way. So I really want to make sure it appeals to everyone, and it's not kind of leaving certain people out, because anyone can do their makeup and feel pretty. Anyone can do their makeup and feel confident. Anyone can do it as long as you understand it. But it's my job to make you understand it. And I would feel like I'm really not doing my job right if I feel like there are certain people who just don't get what I'm saying, or you know, they feel like I haven't gone into detail enough. So I just want to make sure that whoever is watching this really can make the most of this, because it would be so unfair, and I would feel like I really haven't done the best that I possibly could. So that's why I go into so much detail. So the ones who kind of are a bit faster, please understand that not everyone is like that. And I've learned that when I used to teach people face to face and have my like academy, when I used to do that back in the day, that's what really taught me how everyone is so different with their pace. And that's why I've become so detailed with everything I teach. Once you get it and you fully understand why, it is going to become so much easier for you. And it makes me so happy when I see your comments, by the way, on my newsletter, because I obviously, like I said, there's so many of you have gone over and opted for the paid version, and we chat. We have this group on there. It's like this thread, and we just all are writing different messages, and we're communicating with one another. And I have so many lovely messages, and I always write back to them as well, where they're like, you know what, it's really, really changed the way that I apply makeup, and I actually understand it now. And then they send pictures on there, and I can see their makeup, and I always give them my feedback, like, you know, whether they should try this or whether they should try that, or maybe ditch this, or maybe add this to it, and it's going to look stunning. And it made me so happy. Some people sent me their pictures on there and their makeup, and they looked stunning, and it wasn't over the top. It wasn't like in your face. And it made me feel so happy to know that they've actually perfected something and I've helped them. So yeah, that's why I'm saying I think you're gonna love that platform. Okay, now let's set this so that you can see exactly how this stays put and how it looks with powder on. So I've got my Easy Bake setting powder. I just go like that to get a whole load in the lid. And next, what I'm gonna do is get my sponge. I'm gonna set the under eyes first, because that's where we generally crease first. And what creasing means is basically the lines that you have on your under eye area, which everyone has, by the way. Don't think to yourself, oh, why do people look like they don't have lines? They do, trust me. Everyone does. It would be very bizarre if you didn't, right? What happens is the product settles into the lines. So when you're making all these different expressions and movements, right? Like you're kind of laughing, you know, look how it scrunches up when you laugh, right? That fluid product will sit in the lines and just stay there, because it's normal, it happens. But what we want to do is try and smooth it out as much as we can so that we can't see those lines. And also, if I don't actually take out that excess product from there and I go straight in with my powder, I'm actually setting those nasty lines, and we really don't want that. So what I'm going to do is get the tip of my sponge here, and I'm going to look like up but put my head down so it stretches the under eye, and I'm just going to drag the product out of where I know the lines are. And then we're gonna get the powder puff, dip into the powder there like that. I don't want all that on my skin though, so I'm gonna just really pat it into the palm of my hand, and then we're gonna press. And we're gonna press over the under eye area, and that's it. Let's do that again. You'll get faster and faster at this bit because it is really important to not leave much time in between so that the product doesn't have time to build up again. But here you go, we've done that there. You can immediately brush this off. By the way, you really don't need to let it sit there and bake like most people do. If you don't want that heavy cakey finish, do not bake, right? So now we're gonna get this brush, there's nothing on it, and we're just gonna literally dust it off. That's it. Now everywhere else, it's up to you where you want to apply the powder. If you want to keep the rest of your face looking super luminous and you are not so concerned about it coming off, I'm just going to add a little extra note here that you need to be aware of. If you don't put powder anywhere else, you must understand that it is likely to come off throughout the day. It will 100% transfer. So if you touch anything or you touch your face, it's 100% going to transfer onto whatever you touch it with. Clothes, whatever, it will. That's the reality of it. If you want it to be as transfer proof as you can get it, because I don't believe any makeup is completely transfer proof. If you want to, not have it transfer so much and you want it to stay put all day, I would suggest definitely using a powder. But let's just say what you want is you want to still keep that luminous look, but you do want it to last all day. Then you don't want to use the sponge, this powder puff, all over your face. You want to use just a brush, because if you use this powder puff, yes, it's going to last all day and you will not have to worry about it, but then it also isn't going to be as luminous as you want. So what we want to do is use a brush, and I'm going to get my big brush here. This is my veil brush, and I'm going to use the large side. I'm going to dip into this powder, which is in the lid, and I'm going to just dip into the palm of my hand. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press over my face like this. And what this is going to do is set my face. But the good thing is it's not going to stay fully matte. It might look matte initially. Trust me, give it half an hour and it will not look this matte. Just please do that, because I feel like a lot of people become quite impatient and they're like, oh no, but it's matte now and I want it to look how I want it to look all day. I want it to look like that now. You've got to give it that time if you want it to last all day. This is literally your base done. It's honestly as easy as that. You can go ahead and add different things now if you want to. For example, if we get the bronzer that I'm using and we just add a little bit of kind of sculpting. I just want to do it so you can really see what this looks like with the finished kind of, or with at least some of the, finishing touches done. Do you know I'm actually genuinely considering about dyeing my eyebrows? Because I feel like they're really black and I actually wouldn't mind them being a little bit lighter. I don't know, I don't think that's a home job because I think that could go terribly wrong. So I think that's more of a salon job. I mean, there's not a lot to really dye, but Let's just do a little bit on the nose. I mean, look at that. It's all, the base is just like, obviously the brows and lips are not done, but I just wanted to show you what that looks like and how you can kind of get that seamless finish. By the way, everything's listed in my description, all the products, you can just click on the link and it will take you straight there. Make sure you do use the links because you could get a sneaky little discount in there somewhere. And also, it would really help me out if you actually like this video, because I know that it may seem like an annoying thing that you hear. I try not to say it as much, but if you like it and you actually do subscribe and you leave a comment, it actually really helps my channel. So it enables me to be able to continue because it helps my channel to grow, and it also helps me to just be able to bring you good content. It gives me an idea of how videos are doing, so I know whether to do certain videos, like do them in more detail or do other things with them. So please do that because it means the world to me and it hugely helps me. So on that note, I hope you've enjoyed this video, very detailed, but I know you're gonna nail your base now, and I'm gonna see you on the next video.